What's up? Everybody hates Gary Gensler. The Swedes are cooking up some shade for Bitcoin, and it looks like Tim Apple is getting into banking. I'm around the blockchain. What's up, all you degenerates, you he, hims, they, them, she, hers? Welcome to Around the Blockchain. We have got a fantastic show. It is I, the Nictator, here to dictate what is happening in crypto today. And boy, oh boy, have we got some things to talk about. But before we get into the nitty gritty, let's meet our guests. In the green box, we've got the man who has said no to everything but Bitcoin. Mind your biz. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back on the channel, Nick. Always a great day when we get to talk about crypto.
Love it. In the blue box, first time ever, brand new content creator, WendyO.
Yes, I will try anything.
How are you, Wendy?
I'm doing good. How are you, Nick? Oh, can I tell them what I told you before we started filming?
Yes.
I just want to say that everybody on this panel, I think your wives and girlfriends are way cooler than you are, and I just want to be their friend.
Yeah.
Not your business.
I have both a wife and a girlfriend. In the red box, William Laurent. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, how's it going? Coming at you today from South Beach in Miami, a mere 5-minute walk from Bitcoin 2023. So if you're going to be in Miami for Bitcoin, get in my DMs and say hi.
Ooh, yeah, get in his DMs and say hello. And last but not least, we found him behind the Hit Network offices and offered him a job. Robin from Sin City Crypto. How are you?
Hola! It's a pleasure being here. It's the Sin City Crypto Takeover. You get us all day and all night on every channel. There you go.
All day, all night. He's a very sensitive lover. Well, look. Okay, before we got to get into it, we got to thank our sponsor, Presend.io. It's basically, have you ever freaked out when you're trying to send crypto and you don't know if it's the right address or whatever? This basically alleviates all of that anxiety, all of that autism, all of that goes away when you use Presend.io. We have a link in the description to securely and confidently send your crypto. Thank you to Presend for paying for my salary. I appreciate that. And if you want to simp for me, I'm Nick DeMundi on Twitter. I post saucy memes, sometimes Riley Reid, sometimes insightful crypto mining content. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about Gary Gensler. That guy sucks. And apparently other people agree. So last week, if you remember, on the last episode of Around the Blockchain, we talked about how some people in the House were essentially subpoenaing, tell me in chat how I say that, the SEC and forcing them to give over documents, and they didn't want to give documents back. And there's this whole kind of like, I don't know, blank measuring contest happening in the government. But now another gauntlet has dropped with a man named Warren Davidson. Here he is. He's an old white guy and a Republican. Shocker. He sent a warning to Gary Gensler saying, look, bro, I'm introducing legislation to fire you. And let's just, in full transparency here, I'm not left or right. This is Warren Davidson. If you go on opensecrets.org, this is where he gets his money from. He basically had $1 million campaign raised through a PAC. And interesting to note, while we do like him dumping on Gary G, he did get money from Wells Fargo. So is that to say he's a lizard person? I don't know. He only got $15,000 from Wells Fargo. So you make your own determinations there. But this is not a love fest for Gary G. This is a hate fest. Davidson sent out a tweet saying, to correct a long series of abuses, I'm introducing legislation that removes the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission and replaces the role with an executive director that reports to the board where authority resides. Gensler basically made some lizard-like noises in response. SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce also chimed in stating, rather than embracing the promise of new technology, as we have done in the past, here we propose to embrace stagnation, force centralization, urge expatriation, and welcome extinction of new technology. Accordingly, I dissent. A banger from Hester Pierce, crypto mom. Let's get into it. Wendy, is all this just a bunch of smoke and mirrors? Is this just this guy posturing to be the new receiver of crypto political money? Is there any teeth to this?
Guess what? At this
I'm
point,
guessing.
the SEC has just done such an unbearable, bang-up, awful job. I don't care who is supporting crypto that is running for office or whatever it is they're doing. I just want somebody to push back against this type of behavior because it's
Amen.
predatory, it's unfair, and they're absolutely destroying any chance the United States of America underdogs have at living a good quality of life. One of the things I learned growing up, and I remember it especially to this day, America is such a new country compared to a lot of these other countries that have been around a lot longer. And we've never been overthrown. We've never been invaded. And what we're seeing happen is a little bit unsettling. And if I need to get my tinfoil crown, that's fine. I'll put it on. But realistically, things are not really looking great for Americans. We've lost control in the global economy. And at this point, I don't care who is, pushing positivity regarding crypto, because they're all bad people at the end of the day, in my personal opinion. For the most part, they're public servants, but they're probably going to end up getting my vote. And again, I'm right down the middle. Live free, harm none, and live your best life.
That's fantastic. Live your best life. And honestly, you really can't live your best life until you have some crypto in it. That's just not financial advice.
Some
Actually,
Bitcoin minimum. Just a little bit.
Actually, everything I say is financial advice. Is it good or bad? That's up to you to decide. Let me go to Mine Your Biz. Is it too late for the U.S. to embrace crypto? If so, what will be the hub in your opinion? Will it be Dubai? Will it be Hong Kong? Will it be your backyard?
Wow, that's a phenomenal question. Well, technically, I live in I live literally on the internet. You can't actually tell exactly where it is that I live, so it probably is going to be my backyard, a fully decentralized location. I want to kind of call back to what you asked before, Nick, though, and you got hung up on a word that was related to subpoena, and I think that just personally, I think that the way you should pronounce it is the way the Brits do. There's a hidden R. It's subpoenaing.
Okay.
Just want to offer that to you.
All right,
in friendship and love.
Thanks.
So hey, the more you know. But I think that where all of crypto goes after this, with things kind of getting a little bit weird, is it too late for the US to support crypto, embrace crypto? I think the cat's out of the bag. I think the toothpaste is out of the tube, genie's out of the bottle, and whatever other analogies you want to use. We've already got crypto. That's already happened for us in the United States. Now, whether or not a lot of us want to countenance those holdings, whether or not we want to admit to US authorities as to exactly how much we have, that's for every single person to decide individually. And I would never, ever endorse that somebody not pay their taxes. I want you to obey every single law. I just want to improve the laws that suck here, right? The laws that aren't good or that are maybe not fair or just laws. But what I am going to say is most people, when threatened with potential seizure of their crypto, most people, when threatened with their livelihood just being taken away, are going to think twice. They're going to think long and hard about whether or not they should tell American regulators exactly how much crypto they have. So in the meantime, while we're deciding whether or not we can answer that question, is it too late for the US to embrace crypto? I think most people here are just asking themselves, like, how much of a fight do I want to engage with? How much headache do I want to put up with to make things work here? I, for one, I'm a constitutionalist. Yeah, I like the ideas of agorism. Yeah, I like the ideas of libertarianism, right? Capital L libertarianism. I like the ideas of voluntarism. They sound really good, but I also really love the Constitution. It's great. I love the protections that are reinforced under the United States Constitution. I mean, really, those are. It's a big deal, and I'd be very sad if I were ever, for whatever reason, actually forced to flee the United States. But a lot of people who are involved in crypto feel like that might be necessary. Where the next place is, I don't know for sure. I know that that Dubai is pushing really hard to bring crypto interests over there, and the rest of the UAE. I know there's some other countries too, but I'm a firm believer that with what we enjoy here in the United States by way of a very well conceived constitution, it's worth fighting to preserve our home and not have to flee. That's my thoughts on the matter.
Appreciate your thoughts on the matter. I do want to make a quick programming note. You'll notice Wendy does not have as many points as Mine Your Biz. Wendy, I'm sorry. You only get 60% of one of his points. That's just how it goes with compensation in women in the United States. So I'm going to try and bridge the gap.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and bridge the gap and break this glass ceiling.
It is 2023. If I want to be a boy, I can.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. Then I must adjust your score accordingly because now I've factored in the math Wendy, now a man in a commanding lead.
Well,
William
here's
Laurent.
the thing. The thing is,
wow.
I identify. Hold on a second. I can't let this stand. I identify as a female in this race. Ergo, I am going to surge ahead. Is this a foot race or
incorrect.
is this an intellectual?
No.
Okay.
No, you get paid.
All right.
No.
Okay.
We're going to William Laurent. We're going to William Laurent
right
right now. William Laurent, help us. Please get the show back on track.
Yes.
Please help us to not be
Yes.
demonetized. Is blockchain technology moving too fast for the feds to get ahead of it and make legislation? They can't even. Okay, first of all, we all saw how last week or a month ago, actually, no, 2 weeks ago, everyone was freaking out about TikTok. It's good. It's this giant honeypot of stuff, and people are going to steal our information. While literally the entire time, some 21-year-old incel was posting documents on a freaking Minecraft Discord. The feds talk a big game. Can they move fast enough to get ahead of blockchain? William, go.
No, I don't think they can. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, right? We're worried about TikTok, but then you have platforms like Facebook that literally sell your information to scammers, where they have a big convention every year in Las Vegas where scammers attend, and and also the Chinese government, the Russian government, and they harvest and take all that information. So they're getting it anyway, right? Regardless of TikTok or not. So I think the whole thing is ridiculous. But I've made this case before. I think the last time I was on ATV is that we have politicians, we have congressmen right now that are saying, well, we need to regulate smart contracts and we need to make it so that, they're not immutable and we can go in and make changes and do this. They absolutely don't understand, right? We're looking at what's happening with Gensler and the SEC. And I was actually going to troll you guys and say, hey, I don't think Gensler is that bad. He did Dodd-Frank, et cetera, et cetera. But since we wanted to keep the show on track, I think the best case now is for the SEC to sort of go away. Look, the CFTC is the new kid on the block. They've shown a willingness to work with the crypto industry. They've been relatively open, engaging with the industry, and they want to develop, I think, regulatory frameworks that are mostly fair and that we understand. So I think they're open to innovation. And this is the key: is that we do want to protect investors, but we need to protect innovation as well, or everything will go to Dubai, to get to your last question, because money goes where it's appreciated, businesses go where there's clarity. So, look at the CFT enforcement actions of late, right? They've already recognized crypto as commodity. They've asserted that Bitcoin and Ethereum are commodities. They've taken enforcement action against companies engaging in fraud in the crypto market. So I think when the dust settles, the Gensler and the SEC are going to be made irrelevant. The CFTC is going to come in with their experience and be able to guide the lawmakers and be able to get them in line so that we are able to craft crypto legislation that is going to make more sense and benefit everybody. Now, that's the optimistic scenario, but I figured I'd be positive today.
Gotcha. Hey, we need some of that positivity. Let's go to what Wendy tweeted out earlier today. Oopsie poopsie from Gary Gensler.
Well, maybe in 5 years you could. It would have the performance. Sylvia McCally's Algorand, who's a Turing Award winner at MIT that I work with. Sylvia's got a great technology that has the performance. You could create Uber on top of it. The question is then who would update the software? Governance is...
Oh no. Gary says Algo is great, but didn't they just call it a security today? The guy just keeps on punching himself in his own rectum, like consistently. Sin City Crypto, thank you for that post, Wendy. That's a fantastic find. Sin City Crypto, who is on your short list for positive government representation of crypto? I mean, for me, I'm a crypto anarcho-capitalist. I don't think there should be any government involvement in crypto. That's just me personally. But you, Sin City Crypto, you're an XRP maxi. You like the government. You're probably a banker. I don't know. Tell me who is on your short list for helping usher in the next age of crypto in the United States.
It's going to be whoever is running for presidential candidate in the next candidacy. I think that we saw that the biggest contributor, or the second biggest contributor in the last campaign run was FTX. Somebody is gonna, there it is. Somebody is gonna fill those shoes, and somebody's gonna fill that bank account and that campaign donations. And I think that it is gonna come from the crypto industry. I think Elizabeth Warren, who is actively fighting, actively campaigning against crypto, or that's her slogan. I think she's going to be met with surprise and disappointment in the fact that the voters are bipartisan, and that we have a Republican and Democratic members of both party lines that will sway an election. And remember, it was 70% of Americans at some point has had some kind of exposure to crypto assets. And so if over half of the population here in the States has exposure, then it's just to think that 10 or 20% of the voters can be turned off by your slogan saying, hey, we're fighting against crypto. So there's that. And remember, most elections from the swing states, they were won by, less than 10,000 votes, some of them less than 1,000 votes. And this is on the presidential election. And then when you get into the House seats, it's even closer than that. I mean, we've seen the recounts as low as 500. And so I think that what we're going to see in the next election is that there are going to be people that outright win as an underdog because of their support for crypto. Now, as far as who's going to regulate, I think the regulation is going to have to come from Congress, because the bickering between the CFTC and the SEC, I think, is not really going anywhere, because we're not identifying which crypto projects are securities and there are commodities. So the CFTC has come out and they said, hey, stable coins are commodities. They said that BUSD, Paxos are both commodities. They said that Bitcoin's a commodity and Ethereum. But outside of that, they haven't listed any of the other. They haven't came out verbally and said these other projects are commodities. So for that reason, the SEC can step up, and anything that's outside of that very, very, very short list, the SEC can just say, hey, that's our jurisdiction. They're a security. We're gonna do X, Y, and Z. We're gonna find them, or whatever it is. You're gonna need to settle Wells notice. And then on the other end, the CFTC, they want to, if the SEC says something's a security, then there's no clarity there. So where the clarity is going to have to come from, especially with this article that we're discussing, is that we need legislation that clarifies what is a crypto asset and what basket does it fit in. At what point does it become decentralized enough that it is a commodity versus a security, or is it a commodity from the get-go? And then if we can get that kind of transparency, then from there we could put it in one basket or another and say, hey, this is more likened to a commodity. Why doesn't the CFTC regulate this? Hey, this is obviously a security, because there are some securities in the crypto space, but I think that is overblown and overreached by the SEC.
Gotcha. I did have a quick note from the chat. CryptoBilly111 says, Rob, Jimmy wanted me to say you stole his grandma's couch cover.
I did. It was one of those floral ones that matched my shirt. So
look, I like the shirt. It takes some chutzpah to wear a print like that. I, for one, am jealous. Speaking of
really
jealousy,
ties the room together.
Yeah, really ties the room together. Really does.
There's actually a Bitcoin hidden in the pattern somewhere.
Oh my gosh, the seed phrase is in the flowers. So Sweden is jealous of, I guess, Greta Thunberg. This is kind of crazy. So Sweden has imposed a tax on mining, a 6,000% increase in the kilowatt hour usage of data centers, but people are saying that it's targeting Bitcoin mining specifically. This comes as energy prices in Europe have spiked in the past year, mainly due in part to the war in Ukraine. Has driven out a lot of Bitcoin mining from Europe. Sweden was one of the last strongholds of Bitcoin miners in Europe, but that's apparently not going to happen anymore. Let's see what else. Yeah, this is kind of funny. It's just the fact that, like, again, Europe, supposed to be a leading light in thought leadership, has completely embraced the ESG ideology, and they've thought, well, we can go green and basically impoverish our people, and at the same time shut down all of our actual power producing places, and somehow energy is going to stay the same amount of money. None of it really makes any sense. Redman says, oh, Nick, in the chat. Hey, +1 in the chat if you've subscribed. Just go ahead and do that. And if you haven't followed all of our guests here, you should probably go and do that. Don't make it weird. Hit that like button for the stream. Where are we at with the likes, BJ?
Not enough. I'm still crying.
Not enough. Okay, we don't have enough. If you guys...
I'm an ugly crier.
BJ's terrible at the board when he's crying, so I need to smash that like button. Go ahead and give everyone a follow. Let's talk about Bitcoin mining. I mean, it feels like it's a dying breed. Sin City Crypto, I'm going to go back to you. Do you see anyone else picking up the slack immediately from Sweden, kind of pushing all these Bitcoin miners out? Where's this hash rate going to go?
Well, we've seen a huge surplus in the hash rate going into the States, especially when China decided to ban Bitcoin mining, which they've relaxed that as of lately with the Hong Kong being more friendly. So perhaps we'll see miners head back over there. There are also some people that are still mining. There's still a prominent hash rate in China as well. But with that said, with the situation between Russia and Ukraine, there is more demand for energy. So I see why the legislation is leaning on Bitcoin. Don't exactly agree on it, but it's an easy finger to point in that direction. But Texas is probably my go-to. I think once again with the elections coming up, I think that crypto and Bitcoin mining, especially with all the jobs that Bitcoin has offered, we've seen a ton of Bitcoin mining, publicly traded mining companies setting up shop there in Texas as well. Also, don't forget about the tri-state area. They have some green energy. I know New York had banned Bitcoin mining if it wasn't 100% green, but they do have the Niagara Falls, a big surplus of energy through the hydroelectric dams up there. And we've seen a lot of miners set up in the New York area, which has been one of the thriving businesses because a lot of the corporate businesses that traditionally were in New York have moved. And so there are people setting up shop there as well. And then not to mention that in Latin America and South America, there has also been a big surge for crypto adoption, not only as a form of payment in El Salvador and the adoption of Bitcoin Beach and some other areas, but you also are seeing miners set up in South America as well. So as long as Europe is being the way they are, and then not to mention that Europe also had that proposal last year where they were threatening to ban Bitcoin if it didn't switch from proof of work to proof of stake, or at least trying to ban proof of work platforms. And it was almost like they were trying to strong arm, and they were like, hey, look, Ethereum is changing. Ethereum's going to proof of stake. Why don't Bitcoin doing it as well? I think you have uneducated regulators there at the top that are trying to enforce idea or bring up ideas and enforce legislation without actually probably doing the research. But I think America, as long as there's no crazy bills passed within the next 2 years, I think America's set up to take a commanding lead because that the main hash rate is in the U.S. right now. So I think that it's gonna increase. It's gonna get even further forward. So as long as we don't stifle by regulation, I think it's too much FUD, man. Remember, right now it's like everything in crypto in the bear market as of lately has been this just pooping on everything. The regulators are going to shut this down. The banks are going to, and so all I'm saying is that this happens every bear market. Like crypto will be fine. It's not going to be banned in the U.S. Maybe the SEC will get out of control, sue a couple more people than we're typically used to. But crypto will be here. Exchanges in the U.S. will still operate. There is pro legislators in Congress that are fighting for legislation, and they're actively had it written. It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
It will be okay. We'll be okay. We don't like the poopy FUD. Wendy, so this just kind of came to me right now. ESG is a thing, and it's moving a lot of governments into instability. Do you see Bitcoin surviving and thriving during this ESG push? And is this actually the thing that's going to push people more into crypto? Or is this giant push for ESG going to push crypto into a dark era?
This is the thing. I think people are just tired of all the BS, especially the younger generation. I'm not part of the younger generation because I'm an old lady, but I just think that everybody's tired of it. Like we keep hearing all these narratives on mainstream media, and from some of the things that I'm seeing on TikTok with this younger generation, they're just tired of it. Like they're tired of it. They can't afford anything. They go to school, they graduate high school, they go to college. they can't afford to pay their student loans back, any of these things. So I just think that people are tired of it. They're more likely to probably look to systems that could potentially improve their quality of life and not really trust the existing ones. And as far as we're talking about the environment, right? We're talking about the carbon footprint and those things. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah, so it's essentially
Okay.
the cessation of fossil fuels, full stop, as soon as
Okay.
possible.
So this is the thing.
Yeah.
The fact that El Salvador was able to utilize geothermal, 100% geothermal energy from volcanoes to mine Bitcoin, it really just kind of disproves a lot of the BS that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And it's just very frustrating at this point because when you have a country that was a third world country, that's what people call it, that
Oh,
are
yeah.
like, you know what, we're not dealing with this. We're going to take our power back. We're going to do the best that we can to improve the quality of life for our people. It just kind of like when I heard that and when I did a little bit of research about it, it just really took me back and it made me think like, what is actually happening? Like, is this really about the environment? Or is this just about control? So I think it's about control. I think people are starting to wake up. Obviously, it's going to take some time. Not everybody is going to get it. But at the end of the day, I think that we're just kind of tired of it and we want to move on. And everything causes a carbon footprint. What we're doing now causes a carbon footprint. What are they going to do? Ban the internet next?
Yeah. I actually tweeted out just today, you think crypto mining is bad? Guess what happens when you learn what it's going to take to run AI at scale? It's huge.
Ooh.
The carbon
What?
footprint of that is huge.
I would love to see some statistics on that. I would absolutely love to see that because AI, I think, well, I won't get into it, but I feel like AI is a lot more dangerous than people anticipate it is. For many different reasons. But I do understand the usage of AI to improve the quality of life when we're talking about healthcare or, different aspects like that. But I'm just very concerned about the removal of humans. Society is already becoming very, very detached as it is. I can sit and talk about this all day long. And human interaction is immensely important. And I get like being a little bit socially awkward, not wanting to be around people. I like to isolate. But at the same time, there is nothing better than hugging another person. Like my favorite thing ever is to hug my daughter. And it just feels so good, so amazing. And I feel like AI is going to potentially destroy that for mankind along with some other things. But I digress.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole AI only episode. When you have to come back for that one? I want to have a
I will.
big AI panel.
Ooh,
yeah, there's a lot to talk about. So, yeah.
Ben and I were actually talking about the pee industry and AI and the addiction within it. Yeah. So we talked about on one of our podcast episodes, Frenemies Forever, our Crypto Frenemies Forever, FF's podcast.
FFS coming out soon.
You gotta make one of the guests an actual AI bot. Like
that would be pretty lit. Yeah, to have ChatGPT.
We could get Sophia.
You can.
Maybe we can get Sophia to come out.
A low level AI rig to run AI locally is about the same computing power as a normal GPU crypto miner. That's just to run one AI program locally. So if you're doing that at scale, it's a massive amount of compute. Talking about computations, Mine Your Biz. What is the actual advantage to mining in Europe? Why the heck would anyone do that in the first place? And is there any way that this could come back to Europe?
Oh my gosh. So you kind of threw me a curveball there. As far as
I'm sorry.
The advantage of mining in Europe, no, it's all right. That's why we're here. So there are plenty of disadvantages to mining in Europe.
Yeah.
And I think that Sweden is just the last in a long line of casualties. Germany just shut off its very last clean nuke. It's not even just that they were using nuclear power to great advantage, it's that they were doing it the right way. And they just shut it down in favor of firing up coal-fired plants. They're getting coal-fired energy sources now over in Germany, and you've got folks who previously seemed to stand for the environmental left, so to speak. That used to be a huge tenet of folks who were politically left of center, was an affinity for the environment and trying to make the environment clean. These folks are cheering on coal-fired energy in Germany. Not only is it going to cost them more, it actually is provably going to pollute more than this clean nuke that they just shut down. So Sweden is just a more recent casualty to this trend of trying to follow ESG at the cost of everything else. But you know who else kind of lost out? I'll come back to Europe in just a minute here. You know who else lost out by trying to chase the ESG white rabbit, Nick? Sri Lanka. They nearly lost their entire country attempting to get a high ESG score. Well, they wound up actually destroying their crop yield because they thought it was so important to have a high ESG score, like it's some kind of video game where a higher score results in, I don't know, more clout, results in more foreign aid, results in higher respect internationally. No, people still don't care about Sri Lanka, unfortunately. Or if they didn't before, they definitely don't now. If they did care about helping Sri Lanka before, I don't know. We're all going broke because of us all chasing these policies so heavily. I can't finish that sentence rhyming the way I wanted to, but we're all going broke because we're chasing these policies above reason, above any sense of self-preservation. So yeah, in Europe, is there opportunity for mining to come back to Europe? No, I don't think so. I think that all of the EU is screwing the pooch when it comes to an obsession with ESG, and I think that Germany is. They're showing that they're willing to, like lemmings, just like before. What's changed in 100 years? Follow anybody that makes them feel like they're doing the right thing, even to suspending their own disbelief, and then ultimately doing terrible things because they're not paying any attention. Their minds are so open that their brains are falling out. Yep. I like to say. And that's what's happening with the ESG narrative. So yeah, Sweden is definitely shooting itself in the foot. Now, the good news is that Sweden is not necessarily a huge player, both in the crypto mining scene and in just the overall cloud infrastructure scene. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there are no data centers in Sweden that compete with all of the rest of the EU, least of all Western Europe. Sweden is not known to be like this heavy duty player. Switzerland a little bit more, but Sweden, not so much. Really great intellectual property that comes out of Sweden, but not so much web hosting and not so much hash rate for securing crypto networks. So the fact that it's leaving that place is not a huge problem. Where it is going to wind up being a huge opportunity, and this is an inconvenient truth for anybody who thinks, like I do, that America should be the recipient of more of that hash rate. The inconvenient truth is that the bigger opportunity is in the former USSR, the former Eastern Bloc, and that countries like Russia and all of the former countries of the Eastern Bloc, your Kazakhstans, your Uzbekistans, all of the rest, they are going to benefit more than anybody else. Why? Because the infrastructure is easy to just put on the back of a lorry or a truck, if you're here on this side of the pond, and then drive it across a few borders, drop it off there, and then Bob's your uncle, you're back in business. I said that because you may have people.
Bob's my father-in-law, but yeah, I understand.
Yeah. The point is, though, it's not going to go the way people hope that it's going to go. It's not going to go the way that we think it's going to go. Yeah. And yeah, for Europe, no, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. If there is going to be a congregation of power, it's going to be towards the Middle East. It's going to be towards, and it's going to be towards those former countries there. It's not going to be in Western Europe, and unfortunately, it's not going to be as much in the United States as we've been working to try to get back.
Yeah. Before I go to William Laurent, I did have a quick note in the chat. Today it's today before tax day. Taxes are due. Don't forget to list Ukraine as a dependent on your taxes. William Laurent. Is this the end of proof of work? Is proof of stake it? Is that, do we just need to embrace the suck? For me personally, I'm proof of work maxi. Is this proof of stake only from now on?
Yeah, I don't think so. Look, and I want to get to some of the other points too about where mining is going to wind up. I'm still a proponent of the U.S., but yeah, let's talk about proof of work. So I mean, look, I think Dogecoin would have something to say about that too. Not only Bitcoin, but look, POW, it's still highly secure, the most secure. We know the consensus mechanism is effective. The incentives are clear, right, for miners to validate the transactions and secure the network. I mean, what I love about the proof of work architecture, if you look at Bitcoin, it is highly decentralized. It is truly decentralized, and that's, you have the power issue, right? You have the power argument, but you also have this decentralization argument that if Europe is just kicking out all the miners, well, that's great. So we'll have servers geolocated in only these countries or only these spots. I mean, that goes against the whole ethos of what we're trying to do in Web3, what we're trying to do with decentralization. So, I think they're operating at a severe peril. They're putting themselves at a severe disadvantage. We have to make sure that no entity or group is ever going to take over the network. Proof of work gets us, I think, closer to that than a lot what I'm seeing in proof of stake, which, if you look at, and I'm not going to name names, I don't want to drag other blockchains through the dirt, but when you look at a lot of proof of stake blockchains, they're basically running in AWS. They're running in Amazon Web Services, right? Or they're running on.
No, you can't say that out loud. No.
Okay. Right. Are you going to, So you're going to move things to Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan. Okay, well, that has some inherent risks, but are you going to trust Bezos with your blockchain as well? That has a lot of risks. So, I think what Sweden is doing right now is asinine. Europe in general needs to embrace nuclear energy more than they have been. It's been a very, very warm winter. This winter, I think record highs in Europe. So the situation is going to be much worse next year. They need to do two things. They need to stand up nuclear energy again and go online. They need to figure out how to improve their distribution network of natural gas, because they're getting liquefied gas from the U.S. They're getting it from other places from places like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and that is just not going to be cost effective. So they're in a really rough place right now. I don't necessarily think that this is going to work to their advantage in the short, mid, or long term.
Yeah, interesting. Interestingly enough, if you have gas heat and you noticed over this past winter, holy crap, that's really expensive. It's because you were paying for Ukraine's heat because we sent all of ours over there. You're welcome. Anyways, let's move on to Apple computers. This kind of came out of nowhere, and this is very interesting. So, Tim Apple, the inventor of the internet, the inventor of the iPhone, the inventor of the iPod, Tim Apple himself released the Apple savings card through Goldman Sachs. They're offering a staggering 4.15% APY. The program also gives 3% cash back on purchases. There are notably very few high-yield banks that already compete like this. And if they are competing, you're not able to get it because you're not a high net worth individual. Just for funsies, I looked up what is the average APY on a savings account. It is not even 1%. It's not even half of a percent. It's 0.37%. Weirdly, though, USDC earns anywhere from 1.53% up to around 8% on Nexo. I would never use Nexo right now, but this is just for frame of reference. How the heck are they doing this? What the heck is going on? Sin City Crypto, why don't we have an affiliate link for the Apple Card? Do you think today's news on the savings account has anything to do with the recent Apple and Uniswap partnership? Are we seeing the construction of a gigantic crypto on-off ramp?
What you have is Apple looking into finance payment services and expanding their Apple Pay and just trying to integrate as many users as they can into their ecosystem through banking or other means. We've seen that the Apple Pay is widely successful, and there is only but time until we get crypto payments onto the Apple Wallet. Tim Cook has come out and openly said that he owns cryptocurrency. You have the MetaMask app. You can load up your fiat through Apple Pay. So right now you can use Apple Pay to onboard cash into your MetaMask. You have the upcoming Uniswap. You have them battling against the banks. I mean, obviously they could have said, "Hey, we're going to offer a savings account 2%, which would still be like 600 or 700% more returns than a traditional savings account." But you know what? They blew the doors off of that because they're trying to get people to leave the banking system. This shouldn't be a wake-up call to traditional retail banks and the robbery that they are imposing, and that has now become the norm. It's so accustomed. Like, you go to a bank account, you go sit down to open up a bank account. They just tell you, like, you can open up a savings account. Even the guy selling it to you is like, "We don't give you anything. 0.01%, yeah, whatever." It didn't used to be like that. But now with this environment where we're just actively just printing money to infinity, or at least we were up until the last 6 or 7 months when they started increasing the interest rates and shrinking the balance sheet, what we had was an environment where the banks could borrow at 0%. Just imagine the scenario. You can borrow as much money as you wanted from the federal government at 0%, and then you could take the money without any interest and then turn around and buy a bond, a treasury bond that gets you 2%. So you can literally just borrow money, put it in a bond, and not even hold it at any point. You can just borrow and then give it right back to them and earn 2%. And that's how we got into the situation we are now with this Silicon Valley Bank, why they became so over leveraged, because they were incentivized to borrow money. And they were just printing it and handing it out. And then what are you supposed to do when you have trillions of new printed money and you're a bank? okay, I'll just go to the most risk-free asset there is, and treasury bonds, and then I'll just give it right back to the government, which the government just is sending this endless supply of printing. And so that is why we're at where we're at, where everything is so leveraged up and about to fall apart. And you know what? Apple, a private company, crypto, which is a private option for the retail to get into, they're all pushing back on the traditional retail banks. But I do want to say just a little caveat that Apple's partnership is with Goldman Sachs, which is one of the enemies of the state here, of the crypto state. So proceed with caution.
Proceed with caution. So, Wendy, like the math, this seems fishy to me, or am I reading too much into it? Is this going to be like, is everyone just going to basically pull their money into the Goldman Sachs Apple fund right now, or is there's something else going on here?
No, and you know what's really interesting too? Because there's a couple crypto companies that I've asked them. I've said, why don't you guys have an app? Like, why can't I use on my Samsung or my iPhone? And they says the reason why we don't make apps is because you can get removed from the Apple, I guess the Apple Store or the Google Play Store at any given time. So it'd be a waste of money for us to create this app. So I think it's very interesting that we're seeing Apple kind of do this segue thing into crypto. But at the same time, I'm a little bit weary. Like, it feels like they're going to do the same thing that a lot of the centralized exchanges did, is just create on and off ramp and then wait for the SEC to come after them. So I would need to know more details about it. But one of the questions I do have is, why did we used to get such good interest rates or like passive income back from the banks like 30 up to 30 years ago, and then it just completely disappeared? Like, that's always something that I wonder, because I was always kind of taught growing up maybe to buy bonds or to put money in a savings account because you earn a couple percent back, but we stopped doing that. And why did that happen? Was it too much greed, or what's going on? Does anybody know? Anyone?
I heard that the government was lobbied and therefore put in place laws to incentivize putting money into 401ks. And basically, they wanted to add liquidity to the investment markets instead of it being illiquid in a savings account.
Okay. So basically what they want you to do is, because let's face it, were you taught about what a 401k is when you were growing up? Because I wasn't. I just was taught
I had a weird
you get a
childhood, but
job.
no.
Okay. Well, I was taught you get a job, you put money into a 401k, and that's what you use to retire. They don't teach, like, I was never taught in public school that it's an investment. I wasn't taught what an investment was. And I feel like most Americans aren't either. Like, most Americans are like, okay, I'm going to put money into a 401k. I'm going to retire on Social Security, and I'm also going to retire on my 401k. But they don't understand that a 401k is an investment, and that sometimes investments go down. And most people have no idea what they're putting their money into with their 401k. I know that I didn't. And a lot of the people I grew up around had no idea. And I will say, during 2008, some of the healthcare providers I work with, doctors and pharmacists, they lost everything in their 401k when we had that market crash.
Yeah. Something's fishy. Mine Your Biz. Do you think this will push other banks to offer higher interest? Is this just a play? Is this just a pathetic move to try and be like DeFi? Speak, young man.
It's not just a pathetic play to be just like DeFi. However, what I am going to say is that there is kind of a playbook there. Apple is absolutely known for, like Lucy with the football, right? They lay it out. Charlie Brown, what does he do? He says, you know what? She's going to hold it. I'm going to be able to kick it. He runs after it, and like a dope, he falls for it, right? She pulls it out. He tries to make the field goal. It's not even a rug pull, right? It's like way worse. It's way worse. Lucy is evil incarnate. So Apple absolutely plays the role of Lucy in this scenario, and we, the consumers, the plebs, those who just hold our meager bags and have these big hopes and dreams, right? These champagne wishes and caviar dreams of crypto coming mature. We fall for it every time. We run after something that looks like it could be really promising. Hey, it looks like it's a card that gives us cash back. It looks like it's a platform that might give us slightly higher yield. Sometimes, we're not quite as careful as we need to be. And I think Apple is counting on that. You could say they're literally banking on that right now. But we're not going to be as cautious as we should be. And we're just going to jump right in. We want to throw as much money into these systems as we possibly can. And then, just like the de facto CBDC, USDC or Circle or anything that is a centralized, CeFi component of the ecosystem that we're used to enjoying, they're going to wait till they have their clutches firmly on our dollars, firmly on our value, I'll say. The dollars are less important, right? Our sweat and our tears. That's what that represents. They're going to wait till they have their hooks in it. And just like the football, they're going to wait for us to, okay, I really, really want these things, the yield. And at the most opportune moment, it just won't be there when we need to try to make contact. So yeah, I don't think much of what Apple's doing here because I don't think it will amount to much, Nick. I just don't think that it's going to have any substance. And as far as Apple making anything that I care to entrust any of my value into, including a seed phrase, right, that contains all of my crypto or even social media apps, I'm not a particularly pro Apple guy. I have one iPhone. I use it as a test bench for some stuff for me to make sure that it is as godforsaken a place as I presumed it was. And spoiler alert, it normally is. I leave that thing inside of a Faraday bag the majority of its life. And then I go about my day and use a de-Googled Android phone, a hardened Android phone, like anybody who understands what these things do to your privacy would be inclined to do. I just don't trust them at all. So Apple saying, hey, let us custody your money too? Hell no. It's a strong hell no from me. So I'll go back to that first response. Just no, for short.
Got it.
Can I add something?
Excuse me, this is a family-friendly show. We say heck or HD double hockey sticks.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Please don't talk about your hard Googling on this show. Sin City, what you got? I'm going to go to William Laurent.
So you guys pissed off my co-host because he said you weren't giving him points, so he left.
That's incorrect.
But I mean, listen, let me play devil's advocate here, right? What breeds excellence is competition, right? So what if we take a look at what Apple's doing? And yeah, you might not trust Apple. I don't trust Apple. But if the banks start bleeding money to Apple and Goldman Sachs, then what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to step up to that level. And now maybe the people who have Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, they'll get more than the 0.37 or 0.01% that you showed earlier. So at the very least, it'll spark something. It'll ignite something in the banks. At least I'm hoping that they're not just going to let money bleed. I mean, we covered in the morning show this morning, $1 trillion has left the banking industry.
Yep.
They don't want that money to go. And so if they see people start moving money into this Apple product, this high yield savings, then they'd be stupid to not at least offer something similar. Right? I mean, what do you guys think about that? And that's the very least.
Yeah. And that's my segue to William Laurent. Thank you for that, Hot Rob. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hang on, William. I want to know, do you trust this app? Do you trust this Apple thing? Like, is this a win or is this like a stay away?
No, not at all. I'm going to echo what Mine Your Biz says, and I got to be careful because I'm a Goldman alum, although my NDA is probably way expired. It's been many, many years. But look, I mostly ignore everything Apple outside of that direct Mac iPhone solution stack, which I think is still better than anything else out there. But I mean, if you look at iTunes or anything else they have, overpriced, lossy music with questionable IP practices that render half my music collection unplayable in Asian countries, forget it. So I'm not going to trust Apple at all with anything that has to do with crypto. As far as looking at macro, this whole thing is a nothing burger to me because, okay, that's great. You said 4.15% APY. Like, I can go to Fidelity and get 4.5 1 month CD, and I lose a 1 month liquidity, but I'm going to get a higher rate at Fidelity. So why would I, entrust Apple with my financial future at all, like among all these dimensions? And I'll hit the last point too, as far as Apple serving as an off ramp for crypto. I understand that they have a history of expanding into new markets. They have huge user base, substantial financial resources to pull this off. But do they really want that same KYC and regulatory headache that you see CZ going through with Binance, that you see Coinbase going through? I just think this whole thing is a nothing burger, and I'm going to continue with my 1 month CDs at Fidelity to remain liquid and get a little bit better interest rate.
All right. Well, looks like it's a resounding crab apple for the Apple Card. On that note, Wendy is not a sour apple. She has won the show and won my heart. So, Wendy, congratulations. There it is. Send us off with some parting thoughts. What did you learn at NFT NYC?
I didn't go. I was actually at an
Where
event.
were you?
One thing I will say is I was very much surprised that there were no Web3 or NFT projects over at NAMM. That is one of the largest music conferences ever. Ever. But thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. Big shout out to everybody who watches Around the Blockchain. Please make sure to like this and send it out, push it out into the metaverse, the internet, so that more people can see what's going on and get some great information. And as always, you guys, appreciate y'all, and just make sure to hear what we say, but listen to yourselves, because you matter, and opt out with Bitcoin, baby.
Thanks everyone for today's show. It's going to be a long week, but let's all be here together while we buy some crypto, stack those bags. See you at the top.